This is Jeff Hunter once again with WX Hosting and Hunter Business Management, and I wanted to give you guys kind of a quick look on, I guess, one of the things that we get emailed about more often than we used to due to recent changes in the PageSpeed Insights grading system. And one of the things they've recently added to the scoring is a suggestion that CSS or not that CSS rather should be deferred. And well, yes, it's certainly possible to do so. You pretty much end up using dirty tricks to do it, unless you heavily rebuild your page and design it so that it becomes more of like a Google property. In that the only property that I know of is actually Google.com that even resembles this structure. In that they kind of want you to basically have a very small subset of core CSS and all the other CSS be loaded later, like non-critical CSS, non-rendering CSS, which to most websites and most developments isn't really a realistic ask, in that there's all these things like Twitter Bootstrap and slideshows and banners, all sorts of stuff that kind of gets thrown into an e-commerce system that excuse me, that is very difficult to sort of pick and choose. And even at that, the majority of webmasters don't even have the know-how to redo that. Now, as sort of a programmer, there are there's cheap hacks and cheap workaround to do a non-blocking CSS load, and one of the ways to do that is through JavaScript, where you take all the CSS and you add it after the initial document render, and you throw up sort of this what's called a sort of a hidden screen, so you don't see a non-stylized render happening. Because as I click through pages here, you're going to see that a little spinner is appearing, and what that's doing is the page actually renders without styling on it, and then the style is then loaded after that, and then the page appears. So it's kind of a weird workaround that sort of tricks the system, but doesn't really do anything useful, in that to do that, it's actually taking longer for the user. Like if I go in here and I turn off the CSS deference that really we've only put in there purely for people not to ask us for it. It's not something we're going to support. It's not something I actually recommend that people use. But you'll notice typically that these pages will actually flash up faster without the deferred CSS, because you don't have that unstylized render, and especially once content starts to be cached in the browser, that it's faster without sort of that delay or forced delay. Now, yeah, it's pretty cool that if you fully optimize a site, you can defer CSS, and then in doing so, at least to today's standard, I can then run a test and we'll wait for Google to catch up here, and then all of a sudden I've got a 100 out of 100 page speed grade. It's really fantastic, but Google themselves have come out and said anything over 85 is considered good enough for us. They don't score you better, at least not to my knowledge, and not to anything that Google said, to suggest that as long as you're getting over an 85 out of 100 page speed grade, that you'll get negatively impacted on search results. There's all this, I'll call it hoopla for respect of a better word, that people believe that they need to get this sort of perfect page speed grade for their website, and it's going to send them to the top of Google. And typically that's really not the case. I mean, I have websites that are on the top of Google that have a 60 point page speed grade, just because no one ever really cared to go in and fix them. But Google takes into account so many different factors in um, in ranking a page. That, yeah, they do certainly count on speed to a degree, but it's a very very small factor of several hundred different factors that come into play. Now that's not to say that if your site really performed abysmally, in the sense that, like, if it took 6 seconds to render a page or 7 seconds to render a page, and I don't mean in the sense that, like, how long it takes to download all the pictures and everything like that. I mean the initial response from your server. So as long as most things are relatively fast, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Anyway, I did just want to touch base on that because we have been getting a lot of emails. We specifically coded into 5.1 a CSS deference hack so that should people want to use it, they can. But again, it is something that I don't recommend that people use. And that's all. I just wanted to I guess, touch base on that.